Pardon me for a minute as I babble at you for a little while. I'm looking for my comb. I got this thing. It's kind of a nervous habit, but also it lets me keep my beard the way I want it. I don't see it anywhere, so I'm just gonna have to proceed without it. This video is basically just for me, more so than any other video that I do. I've got thoughts in my head, and this is more pertaining to my writing. I found that I can think of thoughts here, but when I try to write them down in note form, it feels constrictive. I feel kind of like if I don't get it out quick enough, it doesn't work. So I'm going to turn on the camera and I'm going to talk. And hopefully, if I have to come back to this, I can, but hopefully, it'll help me get some things out and I can kind of deal with it. First off, I just wrapped season 4 of my series, Power Rangers Elite Force. It's awesome. I've been struggling since wrapping that up. It's only 17 episodes, but I think the first season's got like 32. Then there's a 7-part miniseries. Then season 2's got like 20 something. Season 3. Anyway, the point is, there's a lot. There's a lot of it, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break this. Is gonna be like season 4.2 or 4.5 because 17 episodes doesn't really constitute a season. And if you look at Power Rangers on television, they break it down into 20 episodes, then they come back the next year with another 20 episodes. So I think that's the route I'm going to go with season 4. That being said, I don't want to say I painted myself into a corner because I haven't, but I found that we just beat like the biggest big bad there is. I stole some elements from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I implemented the first into the series, which I thought was actually very well done. If you're a Buffy fan, if anybody's actually paying attention to this, if you remember, Buffy had a sword that it was more like an axe that could beat like the Uber vampires. So I found a way to incorporate that, and it's now an offshoot of the Shadow Saber that the Shadow Ranger has. So I incorporated that. I feel as though it integrated well. It didn't feel forced. I don't want to keep dwelling on that though because we're past that. What I want to do now is kind of venture into uncharted territory. First, I'll say this. I found that because I created a website for the thing. I mean, it's just a little back page thing. I mean, it's not awesome. It's got a couple of pictures and it's reference points for me. The problem is that in creating a website for it, I feel the need to have pictures of the Rangers, but because some of them aren't actually based on people, or some of them are based on people who are legitimately just younger than the role called for, I can't put up pictures of the actors and I can't put up pictures of the original people who did it. So it leaves me in this weird, awkward state of I can't use it. So I feel restricted because of that. On the same hand, to implement a new Ranger or a new sort of Ranger suit or Ranger technology, I feel this need to find pictures online of Ranger suits that would fit into canon, that flow well with continuity, but also there's a picture that represents it. At the end of season 4, I introduced the Orange Ranger, but it's completely different from the other ones because it's an experimental morpher kind of thing. But in trying to find something to represent the Orange Ranger, it's very limiting to what I can do. See, the good part about actually writing instead of doing like film or short movies or even YouTube videos is that when you're writing, sky's the fucking limit. Do whatever you want to do. But I find myself limiting myself because I need pictures to correspond with what I want to do. That has to stop. So as of right now, I'm putting that completely on hold because it hurts. It hurts to have ideas and then try to restrict them into pictures that I can find. See, my goal is the challenge that I give myself as I'm writing is to stay in canon for Power Rangers. If for whatever reason, knock on wood, Saban Brands were to call me up and say, hey, We stumbled across your website. What you've got going here is awesome. We want to put it together. As a Power Rangers nerd, it's important to me that it fit into continuity of the series. I don't want to backtrack on anything that happened in the show. I want everything to fit seamlessly. That's kind of why I bumped it 3 years up, to kind of avoid that problem. And now we're moving 4 years up, and that's another reason that original characters really help. Hey, baby. Everything okay? Allergies. Oh, I'm sorry. That's look, they got Asian booty. Ooh. That's why original characters really help. That way, I don't have to worry about did this really happen? Is this gonna step on any toes, continuity wise? So I need to. Okay, losing my train of thought here. Let's backtrack. Here's my plan. One. We started in 2025, and no, that's not true. I bumped it up to 2028, which was 3 years after SPD. And from a canonical standpoint, it's long before Time Force, but long after anything that's happened on the Power Rangers. I mean, and by it being 2017, almost 2018, it's 11 years away from anything. If Power Rangers is even still running in 11 years, we won't know. So I feel like it's safe for now, to say that I can't do anything because of the fear that it would mess up canon, so I just can't write anything. Nothing would get done. So one, we're in 2028. I'm actually going to bump it up to 2029. I want to go 6 months ahead of time, because where we leave the series, SPD is completely in disarray. Like, between the invasion and then the whole thing with the first and Zaketh coming over and like trying to destroy the world, like SPD is in ruins. But the upside is that when Zaketh came and promised world peace, I feel like I'm talking at you and you don't know, but it's okay. Zaketh, the good side is a lot of diseases were cured, but the downside is that a lot of people were absorbed by Zaketh. That was kind of the payoff for world peace, is that some people had to die. But we beat Zaketh. That's fine. But the world is still in ruins. Not just SPD, but the world, because we broke down borders. And, with him being in control, there was no need for countries or kings or presidents or borders. So all of that stuff got wiped out so Zaketh could be in control. But then we got rid of Zaketh, which was the best thing for all mankind all the way around. But we essentially ended world peace. So we need to pick up the pieces, and through picking up the pieces, SPD now has to rebuild. So I want to go 6 months ahead to 2029. That will allow Asia to have had her children, because where we leave off, she's 24 weeks pregnant. Let me see if there's 4 weeks in a month. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. So that's 6 months pregnant. Oh, wow. So if we bump up 6 months, then she's already had the kids. And I kind of wanted to start it off with her having the kids. But maybe we should, if we bump it ahead and the kids are already 3 months old, that might be the way to go. So we're in the midst of rebuilding. On top of that, we're also working on the Temporal Investigations Department, which is a thing. Micah is now the Orange Ranger, and we've been dealing with the Morphers. Because, the Morph refused to arrest because it was a malfunction. It was a prototype kind of thing. So we've taken care of that. All is well. I want to shift away from dealing with time travel and deal with, now the implications are, the world is rebuilding. Things are trying to get in order. A lot of people died. A lot of things are different. And SPD is trying to pick up the pieces. But SPD is not the only faction out there. That's the thing. It's like, it's a big company, but it's just in New Tech City, California. There are plenty of other cities in California. And the guy who I want to be perceived as our big bad. In my mind, I've named him Malcolm McGuinness. He's like from Ireland. He's Scottish, and he's the world's first trillionaire. You know, and he's a multi-trillionaire. And with all these borders being down and everything being weird, he's taken the opportunity to swoop in and kind of take control of these things. So now his company, while not as widely known as an SPD, has about the same amount of resources as SPD, with one exception. He doesn't have Ranger technology. So he's looking to get Ranger technology. Meanwhile, all these little places are getting robbed around the city, and like SPD are like, they're pretty much the police. So they're going around and they're protecting the city. But Malcolm actually, it's like SPD is its own kind of government branch, but technically they would work for the government, kind of like the army works for the government. It's like they kind of on behalf of the state. But now Malcolm owns most of the state, so kind of SPD kind of has to answer to him. They need to be accountable for what they're doing. So he's trying to weasel his way into getting Ranger Tech. Meanwhile, the temporal investigation guys are, that's kind of getting off the ground. What I want to do is incorporate a lot of stuff that I did in Parallels. That's a completely different thing. But, a group of them will be going off and doing other things, say alternate realities or some slight time travel. But mostly we're just dealing with cop shit, and mostly we're just dealing with space shit and like negotiating with new alien species. But Malcolm will be perceived as the big bad, but honestly, there could be a case made that SPD themselves are the big bad, because now they're this government-run operation who aren't answering to the government. They're just in defiance of what their government says, because now there's this new faction that's being for, you know what? With all the countries being gone, it would be really easy to start a new thing. For the sake of argument, let's call them the Union for now. So now, the Union has formed, and they're like, hey, now all these countries have gotten together. We formed this union in the wake of everything that happened with Zakith. SPD needs to get on board. And SPD's like, no, we don't answer to you because we don't like you. We don't like the things that you represent. And he's like, well, it's not really up to you. It's more the will of the people, because you've got people running around unchecked. Who gives you the authority to arrest people? Who says that you get to uphold the law? The government dictates what the laws are, and you supposed to work for the government. So they're left in this position of, if you don't do what we ask you to do, then they can threaten to cut funding. And with no money coming in, what would SPD do? So that's an interesting dynamic, because I wonder how much money it would cost to run an SPD. A lot. Like, technically, it's a hero factory, and it's a hero factory that people come in, they want to get trained, and then some of them are the best of the best, and they get to be Rangers. But a lot of these people would have like lives. They have families to support, and it's like, how would that work? Money has to be exchanged somehow, and that's never really been addressed. So SPD needs to be able to work with Malcolm in order to get the funding that they need. But that'll be interesting. I might do something along the lines of, Malcolm comes in, he's like, look, I'm willing to help out. I'll fund your research and everything, but I want access to the things that you're doing. And they're kind of fighting him on the, no, we'll give you access, but not to Ranger Tech. But then it's like, well, who are you to say you get Ranger Tech and everybody else can't have Ranger Tech? Just why do you have the monopoly on that? What if there's another threat that can't be handled and you guys aren't around? And the SPD's like, look, we got it. This is under control. So that could be really interesting. That's something we could really do something with. Another thing, and like I said earlier, what I have to stop doing is not so much worry about what they look like, so much so that I have to go get pictures, because that limits me to the alien races that I can do. That limits me to the actors or, the characters that I can use, because now in my mind they can look a certain way, but the Ranger uniform doesn't match what I would like it to be. And since I don't have a picture for it and I'm not an artist, I'm limited to what's out there. I'm not doing that anymore. No more. So we're going to switch a lot of things up. There are going to be a lot of major changes going on in SPD because we're moving towards the future now. And it's gonna kind of slow. You can see the early beginnings of what's going to be the beginnings of Time Force coming out of SPD. So that should be fun. Oh, here you go. Also, I mentioned in season 3 about the eugenics war. And Justin mentioned it in passing, like, oh yeah, the eugenics war took a lot out of you guys. And like, what's that? He was like, don't worry, you guys will get there eventually. It could be that Malcolm McGinnis, I've been affectionately calling his company MTech, but now because I think we're gonna make him more the government official. Like, he's a trillionaire, and he's been paying for the reconstruction of all these cities. Of course he's the mayor, or of course he's the governor, or if nothing else, the governor's in his pocket. Because if you don't, then you cut funding to that state. Why would you do that? So we'll have like Newman Guinness or something. Like, he'll have a city named after him or something, and it'll be just as big as California. That means I'll have to learn some geography. I don't know how to map, so we'd have to appropriate how big, because it's like the whole world now. So it's like there are no more borders, so he's bought up most of it, or he's in control of most of it. So, wow, that should be fun. So it's him, and he's working on cloning, and he's like, hey, I can weed out the problems in people before they're born by manipulating DNA. We can make perfect people, and in trying to create perfect people, they're just better than humans. And the eugenics war start, and of course we have to do something to speed up the aging process somewhere. So yeah, so he'll be responsible for the eugenics war. I won't go so far as to start the eugenics war in season 4.5 or season 4 part 2 or whatever. We're not going to start it there, but the seeds will definitely be there. Look, see, here it comes. It's starting to happen. Things are starting to take shape. It looked like it's on the way. I was suggested a an idea for an episode called The Fistful of Chiefs. That's also something else I want to do. I've been limiting myself to naming these things by one word titles because that's what SPD did. This isn't SPD. This isn't even SPD Elite Force anymore. It's something completely different. So I'm going to go and we're just going to use actual titles of episodes. So the episode will be Too Many Chiefs. A play off Too Many Chiefs, Not Enough Indians. So what happens is somehow the chief gets cloned, and they found a way to dispose of the clones, but at this point we don't know which ones are the clones and which one is the original, because technically they all have his memories. That should cause a lot of problems for him and his relationship with Serenity too, because from their perspective they all love her, so they're all him. So what do we do about that? Do we kill them? And if we can kill them, should we kill them? Do we have the right to kill them? It's like, these are lives. These are human lives. So that should be fun. Maybe something happens. They storm one of the MTech buildings or something, and he's accidentally cloned. And they find out, and they bust in, and they break them out, and they clean them up. But I'll work it out. But the chief will get cloned. There'll be 3 of them, and man, that should be fun. Also, Pascal is alive, so we've got to do something with Pascal. He won't be back for a while. We may do some things where we kind of cut to his planet, and he's sitting up. I had this idea of him sitting on like a mountaintop, looking up, and there are three moons, and the sky is like a weird green, and well, maybe not. Yeah, green. Green's fine. A green blue, whatever. And he's just very hesitant to go back because he went there, he died. He doesn't. It's weird for him. So, oh, what could be fun? What could be fun is he died, right? And he's because he had a whole crisis of faith because he found out his religion was bullshit. But when he died, because technically he wasn't dead, like there's a ritual they can do. I won't get into it, but it all works out. It adds up. But while he was in that state, whatever state that was, he believes he was in his version of heaven. So to be pulled out of there, why would he want to go back to Earth? So at the very end, like I feel like if they need him for something, he'll come back and he'll save the day or something. But there are definitely a lot of things that I want to do moving into the second half. That's what I'm just going to call it. It's the second half of the fourth season. Now, I don't think that I'm going to breeze through the entire second half of the fourth season by the end of the year like I originally wanted to, but that's fine because I got a lot done. And there's a lot going on. There's, like I said, there's temporal investigations where they're picking up on like little time variances that they'll have to take care of, and that'll spin off more into like quantum realities, alternate realities. So they'll be able to like deal with alternate stuff. So that'll be fun. Oh man, that'll open the door to quite a few different things. So we'll see how that goes. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I think this was much more beneficial than writing it down in my mind. And I'm going to end up writing this out in the next couple of days. Hey, I found that chord. I was looking for this chord. Like, yeah, here it is. In my mind, SPD rolls up on a building that's being robbed, and there's some sort of hostage situation going on in the building. So the Rangers, I say the Rangers, but it's not really Rangers. It's just like there's a team of people. Probably Sebastian and Xander are there. There's somebody else there, but the big guns will be Micah. Whoever our hostage negotiator is, he'll be the guy on the megaphone. He'll say, "Hey, look, why don't you come on out with your hands up? We can do this. Nobody has to die here today. Let's get you on out of there." And the guy said, the one was like, "You're not gonna take me. It's time for not time for SPD took everything from me. I'm gonna do this." And he's like, "So now I'm gonna take this from you." It's like one of their storage facilities, maybe. Maybe this is where they keep like access stuff. Or maybe it's a lab of some kind that's connected to SPD. I'm not sure yet. So they're trying to negotiate with him, and he's just like, "No, you need to come out of there." And he's like, "I'm not coming out. You took everything from me. You guys ended world peace. I don't trust you anymore." And that's the perception of most people in the world now, is that SPD ended world peace. So M pulls up the guys from MTech, and they're just like, "We've got this under control. Hey, guy, why don't you come on out of there? We can discuss this peacefully." But there is no peacefully, because MTech guys have got snipers on the roofs on the opposite side, and they're just trying to lure him out so that they can snipe him. SPD, while the villains technically also want to save this guy's life, and when the negotiator realizes that it's gonna go south real quick, they call and say, "Okay, it's time to call in the big guns." And there'll be references to the big guns a couple of times as the officers discuss amongst themselves what they're going to do. They'll say, "All right, let's call in the big guns." The big gun is Micah, who is now the Orange Ranger, and there's more armor to it than something else. And whatever happened to her, whatever upgrades that she made, she can now open portals. Think Cisco from The Flash. She can now open portals. So, jump in one, out the other, and it's like, but very short distances. So they spot that the guy's going to try to snipe him on the roof. They've only got a few seconds to react. They call out the big guns. Micah morphs. She hits the portal. She pops up. She grabs the guy, pulls him back through the portal. She handcuffs him. They saved his life. But from his perspective, you have once again ruined what I wanted to do. He doesn't see that the bullet was about to kill him. So MTech, still the villains, but also perceived as the good guys. So they take him into custody, and now there's this whole thing. Well, why do you get to take him into custody? Under whose authority do you get to take him into custody? This is why MTech feels like they need Rangers. Might doesn't make right. SPD has a group of Rangers, and you think you just get to make the law? That's not how this works. This is America. And it's like, no, I'm sorry, it's not America anymore. Remember, there is no government. So Malcolm's pissed, and he's like, well, if you can have Rangers, I could have Rangers too, and he's working on it. Like, wow, this is, it's really gonna take a turn. Like, I'm gonna be dealing with some deep shit for the second half of the fourth season. Like, I'm excited about it. I always say, oh, I'm not gonna do any writing tonight, and then I end up sitting down and writing some shit. I don't feel like I am, but if I do, that's where I'm gonna start. We're gonna be dealing with a lot of heavy shit going in to the second half of this season. Ultimately, I don't know where it's going to end. Like I said, I do want to sprinkle in the prelude to the eugenics war. I know I want to bring Charlie Valletta back in, who is Carlos's daughter. Carlos is from Power Rangers Turbo and then Power Rangers in Space. I've written it in where Charlie, who was the Red Ranger for A Squad and SPD, is his daughter. So I'll bring Charlie back. Justin's still around, and he was a kid during Turbo. So I've done the math. He's in his late 30s now. He could still be of some use. I wanna wrap that up with him. I've never dealt with that. We just kind of like, oh yeah, we'll deal with Justin later. But now, because we're so hard pressed for staff, that I really want to do something with that. This could I almost want to pull in a veteran ranger to give Malcolm McGinnis some credibility, because if this guy is on the team, it's like, not Tommy, because in my universe Tommy is dead. Jason, I could pull in Jason, original Red Ranger, because I did mention that his kid flunked out of SPD like years ago. So now here's MTech, who's willing to give Jason's kid a chance if Jason will endorse MTech and what they're doing. It's like, hey dude, you're the original Red Ranger. Your word carries weight. And that'll give him some backing, and people will be like, yeah, we need to start trusting MTech. I'm not really sold on the name, but I'm working on it. That's just a solid name for now, MTech. Yeah, I like where this is going. See, this is why talking it out was good. Yeah, I needed this. Man, there's a lot of good shit going on. There's a lot of good shit. This is going to be a real fun thing to write.